Sierra Leone, like many other African countries, has had several security threats that have claimed the lives and property of scores of people. Notable among them is the 11 years of civil war which broke out in 1991. Until the time of the production of this documentary in late 2024, the scars and effects of the war still pose serious threats to the country's peace and security. In the eastern district of Kailaun, particularly Koindu and Yenga, a border setting with Guinea. Here, which is one of the last villages on the eastern region side of Sierra Leone, the people said they have lived and continue to do so in a morally degraded condition as if they are refugees in their own country. When Sierra Leone's incursion by the Revolutionary United Front RUF intensified, the Guinean army moved into the Kisiteng chiefdom to support the government in Freetown battle the rebels. The Guinean troops have since then occupied Yenga village, despite an understanding between the presidents Akma Tijan Kaba and Lansana Conte at the time, acknowledging that Yenga is a Sierra Leonean soil. For about 2 decades, even after the end of the war, the ownership of Yenga remains a highly disputed one, with strong fears of Sierra Leone losing its own territory. In this documentary, I journey to Yenga village and spill out the effects of the long-standing dispute on its residents and the potential threat to the peace and security of Sierra Leone. Upon my arrival, I was welcomed with information of potential risks getting to Yenga, precisely the base of the Guineans near the boundary River Makona. Therefore, the Deputy Superintendent of Police in charge of operations at the Koindu Division, Abubakar Kamara, provided me with security to the village. Pengu Bengu, less than a mile to Yenga, is Sierra Leone's last immigration and police checkpoint, a basic spot with fewer less equipped personnel. Nonetheless, though, I was subjected to their routine inquiries before crossing. I proceeded from this point. I surprisingly saw leftover landmines on the roadside which were said to have been planted during the war and encountered and dug out from different locations every year during farming activities. They have been disexposed to villagers and other passers-by, including children, for a couple of weeks before we arrived. From Pendembu to Yenga is about 52 miles. It was stated that there was a pillar here stating that exactly, but was removed by the Guineans after the war was coming to an end between 2001 to 2002. They constructed a new beacon marking a boundary between the two Mano River Union countries. Now, as you can see, the materials used to construct this new beacon is still fresh, as at the time when we arrived here in late 2024.
I was born and raised here, and I will tell you that this is not the boundary I met. It was during the war when the Guineans came and fought for us And after the war, when they refused to go back to their country, they said this is the boundary. They removed the original baking here as mile 52 and they placed their own baking. In 2023, they built this new baking and cleared the old one with machine. This place was a weapon base, but they built this baking. They said this is the boundary.
Town chief of Yenga village, Tambanuma, who has survived the dilemma of living in this infamous township, said they continue to live dangerously in their home.
Our suffering started after the end of the war. We are living like refugees in our own country and are being ruled by the Guineans. We don't have freedom like we used to. Just suffering, suffering, and suffering.
The 66-year-old, however, is skeptical they truly are governed by the government in Freetown because, according to him, they are subjected to both the control of the Guinean army and authority in Sierra Leone's Koindu.
We say we doubt. Because why? The condition where they under every day.
Where are we? We are in doubt because the condition we are under is scary. Every day we see Guinean soldiers moving with weapons. We don't have freedom in the village like before. I don't know how the government is handling this, but we are confused. Are we in Sierra Leone or in Guinea?
Now under Guinea Freck day, I don't know how the government take that. For we now where would they live now? Na Salon would they live by or na Guinea would they live? We don't know.
According to Chief Numa, until only about June 2024, villagers were restricted to benefit from the resources of Yenga, including access to parcels of land for farming. Even the only school in the village, a makeshift structure which had salvaged the kids from either trekking about 6 miles to and from Koindu every day or drop out, was demolished by personnel of the Guinean army.
Now the school been there. What's this bush waiting up? So we school been there.
The school was standing right here where these bushes. The Guineans came and demolished the school, and now our children are constrained to access education. Going to school all the way to Koindu town, almost 3 miles from Yenga.
Let the government look to that. The benefit to them will not enjoy them at all because we not get peace. Do you let the government? Do you with the Fed talk with the Beckham? Let pull we under Guinea Freck. We not use Otam.
Mohamed Kamara was the school's deputy head teacher. I met him in the Kisiteng Chiefdom headquarter town, Koindu, where he told me that until their displacement by the Guineans, they were operating well amidst challenges and even received support from the government of Sierra Leone.
We started KLDC Primary School Yenga in 2009. At that time, we were based at Quagmire Primary School. We dwelled there for 2 years. After some time, in 2012, we went to Yenga. So in 2013, I filled my ED form and I went there also as a teacher, as the deputy head teacher of that school. We were attending there, things were going there normal, but we are living under a boot. Every year when rain comes, children scattered. There the schools ends for the day. So that was also a problem. So even the Guineans, when they come around during that time, we get feared. Get feared during that time when they are working with their guns. So that's also a that also was a threat to us. They told us to get out from there. They said that's not our place. That was the main reason. So our inspector of school told us to close it temporarily and he appointed us to another school here, KLDC Primary School, Koindu. Most of the pupils went to the nearby schools, AG Primary School and Quagmire. And some of them did not go to school again. We are 4 in numbers. So my head teacher, I was a deputy, and we are having voluntary teachers, 2 of them. We were having about 250 pupils. Some were from Yenga, some we are from Bondu, Kolosu, and Pengo Bengo. Those were the villages that we are giving us children for the school. We are getting subsidies, book supply, all necessary things for the school. We are getting them.
Other basic amenities such as electricity is still a dream hoping to be a reality someday in Yenga.
Then last year, the Salon government been done further development for we. It count about 12. Then street light there.
These solar lights were given to us by the Sierra Leonean government. About 12 in the chiefdom and 6 of them for Yenga village. But all of them were destroyed by the Guineans, save for this one left, and it cannot serve the whole village. Right now, we are in darkness. We want government to support us.
Where they can now, where they drop then what I say under, they come say, well, this one with the pin and as the example. For let them know, say, anytime let them with the remember say yana salon. Now make them pin this one green light na ya. But ya na 6 been day na turn na ya, where they plan for making na ya. Then the all Guineans them put that development for we.
From this point, I was told that the Guineans have now built a new military training camp just a few meters away from residential huts in the Yenga village. From this point to the Guinean military training camp is about 300 yards, precisely on the left-hand side of where that truck is. Now, we have been told by the security that the Guineans might not allow us to take any picture or film their activities beyond this point down the hill to the river where a manual ferry is being operated by the Guineans. As I walked through the road, I noticed the Guinean military training camp was as quiet as a graveyard. The building looks newly constructed, painted, and with dominant yellow, green roofing and their flag hoisted at the said base. I was told they have just completed training for newly recruited soldiers, the reason the camp appeared quiet at that time. From this point, all I could hear are the voices of Guineans down the boundary river Makona. There were several trucks loaded with drums of palm oil ready to be ferried from Sierra Leone across to Guinea. There's also the frequent crossing of people to and from Guinea daily. So I finally succeeded to get to this point where the manual ferry is being operated, as you can see, and it's operated by the Guineans purely. And this is a major business port for the Sierra Leoneans and the Guineans, because we've seen several trucks that come with palm oil to be transported to the next village after the border on the side of the Guineans, which is Nongua village. I also took notice that both the Sierra Leonean and Guinean currencies are accepted as legal tender for payment, whether for crossing or other business transactions. Prior to now, it seemed unclear of what attracted the Guineans to Yenga, considering that the village has no history of minerals. Civil society activist Charles Mambo says it's maybe because Yenga is a lucrative business port.
Military leaders are normally afraid of being overthrown. And what we are gathering initially at that time was, even in the days of Lansana Conte and President Kaba, the argument was the government could have given the orders for them to move from Yenga. But some of the commanders, who are actually benefiting, it could not be trade, it could not be mining, but Yenga is a cross-border area and it has a lucrative trade link between Sierra Leone and Liberia and Guinea. Very lucrative. If you go down, even at this point now, you can see more than 20, 30 trucks load of palm oil and other goods from Sierra Leone to Guinea and from Guinea to Sierra Leone as well. It's vice versa. So it's very lucrative. So those commanders normally tell their leaders in Conakry that if they move from that point, the possibility of rebels from Liberia to come use those ends to go and overthrow them will be very high. So some of the military leaders were actually afraid because that was the fear. The military commanders from Guinea stationed in Yenga were actually instilling into their bosses in Conakry. However, they also came to realize that that was actually not the truth. So up to this time, as I'm talking, I see no reason why Guineans could actually now go. And in fact, the situation have now got worsened, since 2019, when they started building concrete houses in those places. And we have reported it several times to President Bill.
Mr. Mambu, who ran a Free Yenga campaign for years, told me this is a clear violation of Sierra Leone's territory. He has suggested a change of method for the government to handle the Yenga stalemate.
Some of the method the people are using, the government is using, to handle that matter is getting actually outdated, because they are actually not working in favor of Sierra Leone. They are almost getting worse. I think they have to go back to the drawing board, bring in other players, from ECOWAS, from AU, from the UN, people who can actually exert their authority to tell the Guinean, counterpart that indeed they have to move from that point. Or this matter can even be taken to the International Court of Justice. I wouldn't actually had wanted to recommend just a move, looking at the brotherhood, sisterhood tie between Sierra Leone and Guinea. Very friendly, depending on one another, which depend on Guinea, and Guinea depend also on Sierra Leone.
Kailaun is a highly sensitive district in Sierra Leone, linking both neighboring Mano River countries, Guinea and Liberia. Except for the main highway from the Eastern Regional Headquarter town of Kenema, all of the roads in this high-yield agricultural district are terribly bad. Two of the major catastrophes that have wreaked havoc on Sierra Leone, the country's 11-year civil war, and the 18-month Ebola scourge started and passed through it.
This is Sokoma, a neighborhood village to Yenga, which the Yenga security threat has not singled out. It was also here that Sierra Leone recorded its first Ebola case in March 2014 from a herbalist who returned from treating an affected victim in Guinea. Now this is the house of the female herbalist, still standing in 2024, but in a dilapidated condition.
Pamanchifia achulendi kisi kamani numayuma falo samweta majaba dole apamanchifino ochu.
In all of these security threats, the role of community radio stations cannot be overemphasized.
As a community radio station, I and my team, we do attend all the meetings, doing stakeholders and other important personnel from Freetown. We make sure that people all across this part of the region get the information. Koindu is a strategic point where we share border with two countries, Guinea and Liberia. Here is a place where people, we even have a problem of this Yenga issue, which government is talking about diplomacy. The people here may like to get information of exactly what's happening. So we are sending this message to them for them to come to the aid of this radio, to help this radio on how best people at this part of the country we have access to communication and information.
Yenga, a disturbing reality. For over 2 decades.
Yenga is a disturbing reality. For over 2 decades, we have been seeing disturbance where the Guinean Armed Forces is dwelling in Sierra Leone's territory. But His Excellency the President, together with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the security forces of Sierra Leone, has intensively engaged with their Guinean counterpart, and diplomatic discussion is ongoing. The President of Sierra Leone has committed himself to ending that occupancy and ensure the Guineans leave the Yenga territory. Diplomatic processes can be slow, but they are the surest ways of ending conflict, no matter how long it takes. So we believe that the Yenga issue will be resolved because nobody can argue the fact that Yenga is a Sierra Leonean territory. That is why, under the instruction of the president, I went to Yenga and saw the Guinean encampment and told them to their face on record that the territory belongs to Sierra Leone, and therefore we will engage the Guinean authority to ensure that territory is returned or demobilized, and the Guineans will leave our territory.
While the people of Yenga still live on a thin ice, they derive joy from their traditional songs and source livelihood from their mere subsistence farming activities.